You've heard the story. Oil is priced in dollars, so the dollar rules the world. It's clean. It's catchy. It fits in one tweet. It's also mostly wrong. Because the real engine of dollar power isn't the currency written on an oil invoice. The real engine is what happens after the oil is sold, where the dollars go, who holds them, how they get recycled into banks, bonds, and offshore credit. The petrodollar isn't a master switch that keeps the dollar alive. It's a headline, hiding a much bigger machine. So here's the real question. If oil didn't save the dollar, what did? This is where money, power, and history collide, and nothing is ever as simple as it looks. The real deal behind dollar dominance isn't oil pricing, it's dollar recycling. The quiet process that turns commodity flows into global credit and turns America into the center of the world's balance sheet. To understand the myth, you have to visit the moment it was born. The early 1970s. America was bleeding gold. Inflation was rising. Vietnam was expensive. The post-war system was cracking. And then Washington did something that should have ended the dollar's reign. It closed the gold window. For decades, foreign governments could exchange dollars for gold at a fixed price. That was the deal. But in 1971, the deal broke. Suddenly, the dollar was no longer as good as gold. It was just paper backed by confidence. And confidence is a fragile foundation for an empire. Then came the oil shock. Oil prices surged. Energy became a choke point. Inflation surged again. So in the public imagination, a simple story formed. Gold backing is gone. Oil is expensive. Therefore, America needs oil priced in dollars. That story feels true because it rhymes with reality. But it misses the mechanism that actually mattered. Because the dollar didn't survive on oil invoices. It survived because America rebuilt global demand for dollar assets. Not the dollar as a unit, the dollar as a financial system. After Bretton Woods collapsed, America faced a terrifying possibility. If the world doesn't need dollars for gold anymore, why hold dollars at all? So the U.S. did what empires do when their old foundation cracks. It built a new one, not a single secret contract, not one magic handshake, a new architecture, a new set of incentives that made the world treat dollars as the default, the deepest bond market on earth. A state that could always issue safe collateral, a financial system built to absorb global savings, and security relationships that aligned key exporters with U.S. stability. The dollar's power is not mainly that you can buy oil with it. It's that the world has a place to park dollars in size, safely, liquidly, at scale. Once a currency becomes the place where surpluses go to sleep, that currency becomes global gravity. So yes, oil mattered. But not as a pricing ritual. Oil mattered because it created gigantic dollar surpluses. And those surpluses needed a home. Here's the machine in one sentence. Oil created dollar floods. Finance recycled them into dollar power. Step 1. Oil importers need dollars. So you need dollars. If you don't have enough, you borrow them. From banks, in dollars. Step 2. Oil exporters receive dollar surpluses. Huge amounts. Accumulate surpluses. This is where the myth starts. People imagine exporters simply hold dollars. But holding is passive. The real system is not passive. Step 3. Those dollars get deposited into global banks, often outside the U.S. London, offshore centers, global dealer banks. This is the Eurodollar world. Dollars created, moved, multiplied outside U.S. borders. And banks don't just store deposits. Banks turn deposits into credit. So the dollars don't sit still. They become fuel. Step 4. Banks recycle those deposits into loans and bonds, trade funding, purchases of U.S. Treasuries, and the collateral chains that make global finance run. This is the real deal behind the petrodollar story. Not oil priced in dollars, but oil surpluses recycled into dollar assets and dollar credit. It's not a one-time event. It's a cycle, and cycles create empires. When your currency becomes the center of global recycling, demand for safe assets stays high. Borrowing costs stay lower. That's not magic. That's plumbing. This recycling machine shapes the entire global business cycle. Here's the rule. Surpluses rise, liquidity loosens, fall, liquidity tightens. In boom times, high oil prices, exporters accumulate more surplus dollars, more deposits, more credit sloshing through banks. This often means easier financing for emerging markets, cheap dollar loans, more leverage, more growth. But then oil prices fall, or risk rises, flows shrink, credit tightens, a dollar squeeze. This is why Fed policy hits the world so hard. The Fed sets the price of oxygen for anyone who borrowed in dollars. So the petrodollar story isn't about oil controlling America. It's about dollar finance controlling the world. Oil is just one of the largest pumps feeding the system. Look at what happens around major oil cycles. Oil surges, surpluses pile up, deposits rise, demand for dollar assets, easier credit. But when oil collapses, exporters draw down reserves, sell assets or stop buying. Deposits shrink. Emerging markets get hit first. Currencies weaken. Refinancing gets expensive. Capital leaves. Economies tighten to survive. Oil isn't the reason the dollar dominates. It's a source of dollar flow volatility that amplifies cycles. The petrodollar system is not a crown. It's a gearbox. It rules by liquidity. Now for the uncomfortable part, every empire collects rent, paid in spreads, fees, privilege. Who benefits? Institutions closest to the pipe. Global banks, dealers, asset managers. First, look at liquidity, best funding. Second, asset owners. Demand for safe dollar assets supports valuations, not evenly distributed. Third, the U.S. state itself. World holds treasuries. America gains breathing room to finance deficits. But who pays when the cycle turns? Wage earners, renters, smaller countries forced into austerity, workers in debtor economies. That's why this isn't just a story about currency. It's a story about class. Advantage flows toward those closest to capital markets. So let's kill the myth properly. Oil priced in dollars, therefore the dollar is king. The real story, dollar dominance comes from the recycling machine. Deposits, offshore credit, treasury demand, collateral finance. Oil isn't the crown. Oil is one of the biggest rivers feeding the reservoir. The reservoir is dollar finance. That's why pricing oil in another currency doesn't instantly end dollar power. Because the empire is not the invoice. The empire is the balance sheet. Oil is the headline. Credit is the empire. If this gave you a new perspective, subscribe. History has the answers. I'll show you where to look.